Hello guys, it's Blockhead here again, coming at you with another episode talk about Minecraft. But today we're gonna, as you can see, we're gonna be talking about my two giant balls. Okay, that was immature. We're gonna talk about mob spawners, and like I said, like I promised you guys in my Let's Play episode, I'm gonna come. This is gonna be talking completely about my mob spawners as we were working on my LP. I promised I'd start a new series, and this is the start of a new series, dissecting Minecraft. So what we're looking at today is behind me. You'll see is two giant glass spheres, and I've made one green and one with ice and one with leaves. And let me get back into first person here. So basically I've started this new world, a new test world, and what we're gonna be doing here is I'm gonna be explaining the mob spawners and how they work in detail. I know I talked a lot of measurements and a lot of block counts and things of that nature whenever I first built those mob spawners, but I figured I'd explain it more in detail. It didn't work out quite like I planned in my Let's Play series, but I'll explain all that and exactly how that worked here. So let's just get started. So what I've got here, I've got these two giant glass spheres, and what these represent is each one is a 16 foot or a 16 block radius. You can count from here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So what that section represents, what that area, each of these glass things represent, is the radius that you have to be in order for these mob spawners to spawn. And just while I'm talking about it, these mob spawners were not easy to find, as you can see. I hope you guys liked the intro of me blowing the crap out of some stuff. I figured you guys would like to, what better way to start off a series than to blow shit up. So, but these here, what we've got, so anytime I'm within this radius right here, in theory that mob spawner will spawn mobs. Right now it's not because it's dark, but I'll demonstrate that a little bit later. I'll build the mob spawner and demonstrate how that works and show when they are and when they're not spawning mobs. But anytime I'm within this radius, the spawner should be able to spawn mobs. And then I also have these two cubes in the center, which represent two other areas. And I've got something exactly the same. Let's go over here real quick. I've got the exact same thing in this one over here to represent the spawning areas that we have. So this red, what that means, well, let me explain real quick first the radius. What the problem I ran into, and what this line of glass here represents, the problem I ran into, I thought, oh, okay, 16 plus 16, because I got a 16 block radius. 16 plus 16 would mean that 32, as long as I'm within 32 spaces. And the mob spawners in my Let's Play series were pretty much at a diagonal to each other. But the one thing I didn't take into account is, and you always got to remember this when you're building your own mob spawner, is these blocks, if you're going at a diagonal, of course the distance across a block diagonally is much shorter than the distance across horizontally. Apparently I got holes here. Stop this rain real quick. Okay. So what you have, you can actually see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, basically 10 and a half, 11. So that's what I ran into with the Let's Play, is the fact that mobs would only spawn, 10 or 11 blocks in this direction, whereas I was accounting for 16, which is true within this direction. So that's the problem I ran into. It didn't hurt anything really, getting plenty of experience from it. But next we'll move on to this red box, and we'll explain what's going on with it. Right here I have a 4x8. Technically a mob spawner will spawn in a 8x3x3, but I found this is much more, or an 8x8x3. I found this is the best way to build your space, and what this represents is your space within your spawning area. So what you can see, a mob spawner, where it'll spawn in is an 8x3x3, and the thing about an 8x8 or an 8x8x3, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and same across here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and up and down. Truthfully, we have 4, but through testing and everything, I've found that it's much better. Even though the wiki says 3, it is much easier to do a 4 tall mob spawner. It may not be completely necessary, but I do it anyway. So what we have is anywhere within this 8x8x3 or 8x8x4 cube, mobs will spawn. So what I typically do whenever I go to build it, I'll of course build my shell of my spawner just like so, and build it, just outside that radius, or just outside that box. And what you'll see, you can actually see here, let's go up here real quick first. You can see that mob spawner, it sits a little bit closer to that corner than it does this corner over here, and these two corners here. And the reason that is, a mob spawner spawns an 8x8x3 box, and it's centered on the radius, or it's centered on the corner that has the lowest X and Y axis. So if I'm centered, if I go side to side, you can see my Z going up and down. If I go over to this side, so apparently on this side is the lowest, so we'll go ahead and mark that. And then also you'll see this side over here, you can see my X is negative and it's going a higher negative over here. So this is also my lowest, this is my lowest X axis. So you can see this corner over here is where it's centered on, and you can see that it is centered on that. So what I actually did is I counted 1, 2, 3, 4, and then there's 5 is the dead center where the spawner is, and then 6, 7, 8. So we still have 8, and it's centered on this side. And same as we go here. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, 7, 8. So that one is centered right here on this side. So you can see that's how that works. And again, the rule on that is the area in which mobs will spawn. So if you're within this radius, mobs will spawn within this box. So let's move on to this blue box. What does it represent? This blue box represents the section in which, if there's 6 of these entities, meaning 6 zombies that have spawned and are still remaining within this blue box, then this will no longer, then the mob spawner will no longer drop mobs. So what that means is, when I build this, if my spawner down here, if my sphere that represented this other spawner came on in to this section, if I built my mob drop right here, I would be keeping the mobs within this blue square. So what that's saying is I would get 6 mobs from here and 6 mobs from the spawner down there, and that would be all I would get. I would get a total of 12 mobs. So what has to be done is the mobs have to be exported out of this box. And what this box is, it is a 17 by 9 by 17, or 17 by 9 by 17. So you can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. And then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And that's centered directly on this mob spawner because we now have odd number blocks. So what the place that you have to drop your mobs at, and your mobs have to be located for you to stand in front of the mobs, directly next to the mobs, and them to still continue to spawn, they have to of course be within both of the spheres. So that puts us down in this area. So you can see the sphere over there comes to here, and then the sphere that we were just in comes to this spot. So I'm within both spheres. So anywhere within this space, mobs will spawn in both spawners. So I need to bring the mobs into here, drop them, and create damage to them in this area. And also, you can see I'm safe because I'm still outside the blue square there and the blue square there. So I'm outside both blue squares in this area. So that means I will continue to get mobs spawning. And you can already see I've got a mob spawned up there, but it's irrelevant. We'll get to that here in a little bit because it's turning nighttime on us. We'll turn it back to day, just so we don't have to deal with a whole bunch of mobs in there. So, and here, the other thing that I'm going to talk about, you have 3 different types of spawners, and that's what we're going to talk about now. We have zombie spawners. Oh, look at him, little villager. You have skeleton spawners. Then you have spider spawners and cave spider spawners, also known as baby spiders. So we have all types of these spawners, and each one, when you're creating your fall, is at a different height. Each mob has their own amount of hit points. So what we want to do is we want to create a height to drop these mobs that they're going to be down as low as possible without killing them. So I've laid these signs out here. A zombie, you can drop him 24 blocks. A skeleton, you can drop him 24 blocks. A spider, you can drop 18 blocks. And a cave spider, you can drop 14 blocks. And all this is saying is if you were to push this guy off, come on, bye-bye. He falls down. Oh well, shoot. Hang on one second. Let's go ahead and turn it to nighttime, and we'll do this again. He's burning on me. So if you hit this guy off, he's gonna fall, and he hits the ground. And the way a zombie works, he's gonna take 2 punches. So you can hit him with your fist and easily kill him and get all the experience. Also, a skeleton, you can drop him from the same height. And a zombie, the way it works, you cannot get them below with fall damage. Well, really with any damage, you cannot get them below 2 hits. Also and then with a skeleton, you can also drop them 24 spaces. but since they have slightly less damage, slightly less hit points than a zombie, they'll die in one hit. And then consequently, you have a spider is 18 blocks, and a cave spider is 14 blocks. You're going to have the same effect with both of them. I'll push him off, push this little guy off, and when they come down to the ground, just one hit and you can kill them both. So these are all spawners that you can find in survival mode, and you can find each one of these spawners, and therefore you can also make a XP farm out of these spawners. And I found this is the easiest way to make an XP farm. There are also many other forms of mob spawners which we may cover a little bit later whenever we get into those types of mob spawners in our Let's Play. But what I'm going to do now, I'm actually going to go ahead and build the same spawner that I built in the Let's Play series. I'm going to build that, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how that works, where the zombies will spawn at, and then also I'm going to show you guys, I'm going to actually show you that these measurements are correct and exactly at what point the zombies will stop spawning or start spawning again. So I will be right back here in just a little bit. Alright, and we are back. Let's get away from these guys. They're making all kinds of noise. Turn it back to daytime. Alright. You can see, as you can see, mobs are spawning nicely. Here's what we can go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and explain everything. Basically, I've got it down to where I can just hit my mobs a couple of times and they will die. But we'll get out of there. I think I probably need to go ahead and drop my spawner one so it's a few less hits, but that's no big deal. We could do that real simple. What I wanted to show, you can see if I'm in this sphere, like I was saying before, you can see, you'll see it here in just a little bit, the mobs will spawn. See the zombies spawn there? Now, the thing is, if I'm within one sphere, but not the other, let's get us a good view here, see if we can see it. As you can see, I'm within one square, but not the other. You can see down there that no skeletons are spawning. However, if I step on over this way and get to where I'm within both circles, you'll see in just a little bit, clear some of this out, that my skeletons will start spawning any minute now. See, I'm still within the circle. See how the skeletons have spawned. So when I'm within this area that is a little bit of each square, I can get my spawns. Let's get rid of these guys. Okay, now we'll go down to this area and I'm going to start explaining how some of this works. I'm going to show you just so you can get a visual representation of exactly how these things work. Like I said, as I was showing you, if I'm within the glass sphere, these mobs will spawn. And again, this glass sphere is a 16 block radius. Now, to explain the blue right here, we're going to do something a little different. And I'll speed this up real quick so that I can put a little roof on here so I don't want my skeletons burning up on me.